Feeling very elated, grateful to God for this ending. It's been a long 3.5 years, long time coming, but while we've seen the worst in humanity over the last 3.5 years with the corruption, we've also seen the best in mankind, particularly the women. So many women out there, standouts at the courthouse over this week, in the hundreds. I know state police estimated there were about 3,000 people there today. And so many women identify with Karen because at some point in their lives, you know, they have been objectified and dehumanized or victimized in some way or another. And you know, with Karen, they see that strength and that courage to fight against the government that has, you know, unlimited resources. And so it's been a great win for us. We've got, you know, Karen's incredible fight, fortitude, strength, and willingness to persevere and not give in. And, you know, she assembled a remarkable team of talented and passionate attorneys. David Yannetti was our first on board, then Alan Jackson and Liza Little from LA, and more recently Bob Alessi. So we're just blessed to have this dream team of attorneys fighting for us. And I think a lot of that passion on their part, that expertise that was unshakable that they brought to the courtroom, was because they knew Karen was factually innocent. And that was, we're very fortunate. I mean, other folks who may find themselves in the throes of law enforcement and be factually innocent themselves may not have that fortune or good blessing to have this type of attorneys and this part of, you know, this immensity of support out there. Again, just the people who have turned out in support for us is just very gratifying and heartwarming. And at a time in my life over the last 3 years, I've lost a lot of respect for what goes on in some of these communities. So I'll leave it at that.
How has it been? You talked about the struggles. I'm sure it's been a very tough time. It's 4 years that you and Karen and the family have been fighting. How has it been to fight the accusations, to have to fight that, despite knowing what you and the family felt was true and the defense team? How has that been for you and the family?
The accusations really didn't trouble us. I drove that Karen's vehicle home that day. It was parked right here when it was seized by Michael Proctor, the now fired and disgraced Michael Proctor of the Massachusetts State Police. I know the condition of that taillight, and I know that the injuries to John O'Keefe, including those dog bites, were not the result of Karen Reed's vehicle backing into him. I drove it home in that snowstorm. So when you've got that belief and assurance that, you know, your loved one is factually innocent, then you've got to fight with everything you've got to see this through to a just ending. And there have been times it's very difficult because law enforcement and the government has unlimited resources through their ability to tax people. And
did it feel, so are you saying, did it feel to you like it was you against this entity that you guys were fighting, you and Karen and the family?
Well, there's no doubt about it. You know, the law enforcement has power, and it's difficult to put down that power. But I think so many folks saw this situation for what it was, a setup, a frame-up, and push back. And when society pushes back and you get courageous men and women who are willing to take a stand, you know, a case in point would be Officer Nick Barrows, who was brought here on that Saturday and testified in court that the condition of that taillight was not as what was shown to him in court in the Sally Port of the Canton Police Department. So that's just one example. And, you know, you look at the Department of Justice was involved in this case from the early on. They were the ones who hired the ARCA scientists. And it was those scientists that determined the injuries to John O'Keefe were not the result of being struck by Karen Reed's vehicle, or that Karen Reed's vehicle, the damage to it, all right, was the product of being struck by a 216-pound, 6'1" man. And yet, even with that type of strong, objective, independent evidence, and truly, they were hired by the Department of Defense, the U.S. Attorney here in Massachusetts. They also provided us with the text of Michael Proctor. Without that, much of this might not have come to light.
Sure.
You know, the idea that he's been fired from the Massachusetts State Police, the lead detective on this case, fired for his conduct, his bias in this specific case. And, you know, that's something. That's remarkable. So there are some strong people out there, and some, all right, we're so, you know, grateful to them all. Prayers, all right, from so many.
What, in all these 4 years that you've been going through this ordeal, what has held your family together? Where has found? Obviously, Karen has had you as support, but how has the family come together? How hard has it been for the family?
Well, we're very mindful of our finite presence here on this earth. So, you know, we are churchgoers, we're Roman Catholics, we're believers in Jesus Christ, his mother, and we are dedicated followers of the church, and we pray daily. And if you don't have that, there's something, you know, that is very difficult then to come to grips with things. So we just continued to believe that God Almighty would see us through this, and he has, as you can see. I mean, this is a very glorious day for us and this family.
Overall, I know I spoke to your wife, Karen. How are you all feeling today after? Elated. I mean, for the last 3+ years I've been in this house, knowing the unlimited reach of the government, and always you hear a door shut, right? You hear a horn. You go to your window because you never know, all right, the next step they're apt to take. And so there's relief. It's finality to it all. And I thank so many hundreds of thousands of people who have come and said prayers for us, sent us texts, letters, flowers. Just so gratified. Again, I've seen the worst in mankind over the last 3.5 years, but I've seen the best in humanity. Yes, absolutely. I'm sure. Today, Karen said, in one of the things she said is that no one has fought harder for justice for John than she has. Would you be able to comment on that, on what she feels at and how she's been fighting for justice to find the real person?
Well, it's certainly not the task of this family, nor for Karen. I mean, for the idea that Karen fought back against these charges and fought vehemently and strongly, and we went into debt. She sold her house. She lost 2 jobs, Fidelity and at Bentley University, where she was an adjunct. Cashed out her 401. She fought to liberate herself, to free herself, and in so doing, freeing herself, essentially cast a light on, well, what happened then if it's not her? Don't forget, she's now been freed, all right, even though the first trial, because the decision of the jury was not made public, twice she's been found not guilty of murder. And so, these jurors had been at it for hours in their deliberations and weeks listening to testimony. And so, it's when she says she's fought for John O'Keefe, she's fought for her own freedom and getting back her name, and in so doing, it's opened up the eyes of those in the media and just casual observers, why is she fighting so hard? She could take a plea, but she refused to ever take a plea for something she did not do.
Was there ever any doubt?
Never.
In the family?
Never. Never. Karen would have been the first to say to me, and I was with her at that hospital in the morning, if she had done something wrong, she would have said, Dad, I'll take my medicine. Never. There's never been any doubt. Karen Reed is factually innocent. All right? She was found not guilty, but I will tell you she's factually innocent. Look at the body. Look at the wounds or lack of wounds, aside from the abrasions, all right, from an animal, from a dog to his right arm, and to the deep laceration on the back of his head. Look at there's nothing else. There's no bruises, broken bones, torn ligaments. If he was struck by a 6,000-pound SUV, which my daughter was driving, you'd see something below the knees, in the torso, around the chest. I mean, we're all reasonable people. Just look. Just look. You're out of Rhode Island, WJAR. You're former Rhode Island medical examiner, state medical examiner, Dr. Elizabeth Laposado, I hope I'm saying that correctly, came and testified. And she said those injuries were not consistent with getting hit by a car. So, you know, it's when you look at the physics, the science as provided by ARCA, and then you look at the medical testimony and the medical evidence, whether it be from Dr. Elizabeth Posada or from the state of Massachusetts' own medical examiner, Dr. Scotty Bello. She said, all right, that she could not conclude that he wasn't hit by a car. In other words, it's possible. And the abrasions to the arm. And so much so, she could not conclude the manner of death. She could not conclude it was homicide. So, I mean, the evidence is overwhelming, compelling. But still, it took us 3.5 years and 2 trials.
How, maybe last question for me, how is Karen feeling?
Elated.
What is the spirit? What is the spirit?
Elated. And also her attorneys. I mean, you know, this was their fight too. I mean, the hours they put in. People see Bob Alessi or Alan Jackson doing a cross. That cross, all right, an order of proof has to be developed over several days. You just can't go in cold. You have to develop that. And same thing with the summation. Alan Jackson's summation, which so many people remarked on, all right, was just, you know, so much on the point. I mean, hours. I know he went through multiple iterations. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Does the family want, because I know Karen says she wants justice for John, does the family want the case reopened to figure out what happened here?
We don't have that power to even, you know, make that wish. We just don't. They have had the resources to look at this case over the last 3.5 years. Given they knew the evidence from ARCA, they knew the evidence from the medical experts, they knew the public, all right, was upset. Overwhelmingly, the public overwhelmingly upset about what was going on here. Well, they've always had the resources to look at it. So it's, you know, what they choose to do, they'll do. And if they don't, you know, it's now been 3.5 years. How much of that evidence has been destroyed? Who knows? So,
would it be something that she would advocate for?
We just want our lives back. She's got her life back. She's, as she made a statement outside of the court today, I don't know if you were out there. It was incredible, wasn't it? By her fighting for her freedom, fighting for her factual innocence, through multiple hearings over the last 3.5 years, 2 trials. That was her, if you will, her statement that not only am I factually innocent and I am being wrongfully accused and charged here, but other eyes need to be brought on this to look at this. So.
Last question, I'll let you go because I know you guys covered a lot already. Getting her life back, what does that even look like now?
I don't think our lives will ever be the same. You know, I mean, this case started off, it was once a time we had trouble generating media interest in this, and now, you know, it's become a national, if not international, sensation. And why? Why? Is it because there's a Hollywood attorney involved? A relatively young, successful woman? No, it's because of, all right, all of the dynamics associated with that. What happened? All right, a cop lost his life, found on the lawn of another cop. All right, and you've seen much of the testimony, and then alleged cover-up, corruption, has all of the facets for something that's so intriguing as well as alarming. So, okay.